Hello, welcome to Expansions with me. This is our time to expand the spiritual dimension of wellness, which I love. I'm going to give people moments to tune in while I tune in and settle in and all the fun things. I always have like a plethora of stuff here next to me in case I'm like, I want to draw this and I want to pull out this. Half the time I don't use any of it. The other half of the time I think about something that's in the other room, but I won't go get it. So, you know, it's funny how we try to set everything up, right? To be just so. Also, I'm realizing that I'm getting a deadline. I will share with you what I got to do today. So I share time with children on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, which is awesome. I'm trying to move something, and it's probably not gonna really work that well. So we're just um. Anyway, so we have these swords at the school, and they're like um, it's a piece of PVC pipe basically that's got like a pool noodle around it with a handle. You buy them. And so one of the kids asked me if he could train me on how to be like a Jedi. And of course, yes, yes was my resounding answer. Yes, 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 please teach me how to be a Jedi. And so he was showing me how to defend and how to attack and all these other moves. And then these other kids were showing me stuff. And it was so fun. I'm really enjoying these like sword fights with these kids. If y'all even knew, oh my gosh, it's so fun. But all that to say is, I get to be outside and in the sunshine, and it feels so good. I feel so connected and also a little sweaty and gross. But hey, that's the balance, I suppose. I want to say hello to my mother who's joining. Hey, how are you? Glad we got to connect a little bit via text earlier. So hopefully we can connect via voice before too long. Um, so got my sage so that I can connect with myself and everyone who is and will be tuning in, whether you catch this on the live or on the replay, whatever timeline it is that you catch this on. I invite you to connect. Connect with your breath, if you will, please. Start to feel the way your breath flows in and out. Just become aware of it. Notice the depth of it, the breadth of it. The breadth of the breath. And now I invite you to see if you can deepen your breath. Can you make it just a little deeper, just a little broader, just a little longer, a little bit more? Breathing in and breathing out. Finding a rhythm in your natural breathing. Start to feel the weight of your body on the earth. And feel the amount of space that you take up. Maybe you're sitting like I am on a big wide seat, and maybe you feel kind of small in it. Maybe you're sitting in a small chair or on a small seat. So just feel how much space you take up. Notice. There we go. And notice just how your body feels. Does it feel tight? Does it feel relaxed? Does it feel present? Does it feel scattered? Do you feel complete in your body? Do you feel disassociated? Do you feel like parts of you are still in the yard or in the kitchen or at work? Do you feel fully present? And however present you feel, I invite you to come into more presence. Bring in all the parts of you that you have spread out throughout your day. So maybe they were conversations and experiences. Maybe you ran around town. Maybe you were on the phone all day. Maybe you were answering emails all day. Maybe you watched numerous TV shows or listened to podcasts or whatever it is. Bring into awareness of all the parts of you that have been spread out and call all of that into this now moment as you take a deep breath in and a big sigh out. Let's do 2 more of those together. Breathe in really big and full. And a big sigh out. One more. Breathe in. And sigh it out. And now check in. Feel how you feel in this now moment. Feel your body. Feel your energetic body. Feel your spirit. Can you feel your spirit? Does it feel light and buoyant? Does it feel expansive? Can you feel your energy field around you that your spirit takes up? The space that your spirit takes up. Can you feel it? Can you sense into it? Can you breathe into it? Can you breathe bigger and feel that spirit part of you, that energetic part of you expand even broader? And when you exhale, can you feel your spirit come in like a hug? Or does your spirit stay where it is for room to expand more? Notice how your breath connects with your spirit as you consciously breathe in and out. Take another big deep breath with me and sigh it out. I always like to do that before I do really anything. I don't necessarily share it out loud, but I like to do that. So thanks if you did it with me. I want to say hey to Zari who's tuning in. Mom's sharing that she feels wired and scattered. Well, hopefully now, because you wrote that a few minutes ago, maybe now you feel a little bit more connected and present and still, hopefully. Which is kind of what I want to share about. And I would love for you to chime in and give me your thoughts and feedback and any ideas that you have on this, because this is why I like this offering, this expansions, because with spirituality, there's no one way, there's no right way. And I feel like all the ways point and are focused on connecting with our fullest self and with something bigger, like love or God or source or bliss, right? Something like that. So because there is no one way in spirituality and there's no right way, that means that there's an infinite number of ways. So I would love to hear how some of your ways are during the next little bit of time together. I'm really curious because I only have my ways, and whenever I hear someone else's ways, it's always really inspiring for me. So yesterday I spoke about alignment and what that, we talked about mental alignment, we talked about physical alignment and spirit alignment. So thinking about spiritual alignment, when I've read different spiritual texts, whatever they are, from the Yoga Sutras to the Spandakarika to the Osho's book, Buddha, Zen, Tao, and Tantra, the one that Joseph Rael wrote, I can't even think of the name of it, Sound and Vibrations, maybe? Anyway, they all talk about, in their own way, right? But they all kind of have the same focus, and it's all about alignment, coming together, remembering that you come from something bigger, something greater, whether it's, you know, your lineage, your ancestral lineage, or you come from the earth, or you come from this solar system, or you come from the sun, or you come from the source, or you come from the god and the goddess, or whatever it is you come from, that you're a part of something bigger than you. So first question I would like to just kind of put out there is, where do you feel you come from? Like, what's the thing that's bigger than you? Like, what do you come from? Do you come from a source of energy? Do you come from Mars? Do you come from the fairy realm and you just grew into the giant human that you are? Where do you feel you came from? And all answers are great answers, whoever wants to chime in, because it's going to be different for everyone. Hopefully, it'll be different for everyone. I mean, I think that a lot of the words that we use are very similar, though, so that's the thing. Anyway, I want to say hey to Charles, who's joining us. How are you doing, dear friend? I'm going to take a sip of water. It makes me think about how I feel connected to something bigger when I drink water. Mama Jane shares that she came from God. That's definitely, I think a lot of people, especially in this region, no, not necessarily, but yeah, anyway, I feel like that's definitely a space. So is God a space? Is God an energy? Is God a person? What would you describe God as? I'm curious. Because it's like, well, I came from my mother. Well, that's a she. So did I come from the big she with a capital S? Let's see, Kim is in the house. Hey Kim, how are you doing? I'm happy you're here. She says, hey, fun combo. I really resonate with being here on Earth. However, I also feel aligned with the angels, fairies, the elements, and Venus. Yes, cool. So do you feel like because you feel aligned with those beings, do you feel like you almost like you have, this is what I feel, tell me, expand upon it. It almost feels like you feel like they're like your ancestors, almost like you would have their DNA, right? Like if I say I came from my mom, I'm going to have her DNA. I have her brown eyes, and I also came from my dad, and I came from their parents. So I have like my dad's chin. I have my mom's nose. So like, do you feel like you have parts of these different beings, the angels and the fairies and the elements, parts of the elements, parts of Venus? I spoke with a girl this weekend, and she shared that she just had always felt like she came from literally another planet. She was like, I feel like I'm not from here. And like half the people in the room were like, me too. Like somebody needed to speak it for others to be able to say like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm from here. And I know some people that feel very earth, like Kim, resonate with being here on earth. So, they're like, no, like I am from all things earth, I am from the dirt. I am from the fire, I am from the elements. And then I have some people that I've spoken with that feel like super galactic. They come from, the Pleiadian star system. They're an Arcturian. They're a Hathor. Some people feel that they came as direct descendants through timelines of travel from the ancient slash future Egyptians. When anything Egyptian comes into their realm, of context and their goddesses and gods and deities and all those things, that people really resonate and they're like, that's where I come from. Like that's, I can, like you feel it in your heart, you know? So when I ask, where do you come from? Like what area is that you're like, yeah, that's where I come from. Um, Charles says, I say I come from the county of Union, which is fitting because I would like to think I am a union of all peoples ever created. I follow the teachings of Christ and try to live up to his teachings. Cool. So you came from people. So you are a people person. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to kind of hone this to like kind of bring it in to expand. So that's the way I'm reading that, is that you feel like you really resonate with like human, like I came from human, I've been human. I've, and the teachings of Christ, which were, hey, we're all love, be love, share love. We're all the same humans, right? And it is funny that you live in Union County, right? Fitting. I want to say hey to Alan. How are you, dear friend? I'm happy you're here. So Alan says he thinks that he may come from his Jewish ancestors. Yes, and Jesus was a Jew. Yes, Jesus was definitely not Christian. Right? Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Such a very interesting way that we have created belief systems around certain things like that. Anyway, so Alan, do you mostly resonate then with so your first point of being birthed in a spiritual level? So you and Charles both seem to feel like you were birthed as like the source of all that is for you is humanity. You came from a beings of people. And I love this conversation because, I've spoken, I had a friend who very much believed and felt deep in her heart that she was from the Sirius star system, that over her incarnations over time, that she's, been a human for however long, but her point of origin that she could remember that she really resonates with was the Sirius star system. And if you think about think about star systems, I mean, we are in a star system. So to think that you're from a neighboring star system, that's like saying like, I lived in Indiana. I lived in Indiana for the first 18 years of my life. And then I came to Charlotte. At this point, I'm a Charlottean. Like, I'm still going to have like my Midwestern roots, and I still say 5. I don't say 5. So there's like traces of where I came from and who I am today. And I am more a Charlottean, a Queen City gal, than I am a Hoosier, right? So that's why I'm like, where did you come from? Because maybe you've been Jewish and your parents and their parents and their parents have been Jewish. But there's really something about like the motherland of Africa that just really resonates for you. Like there's like this heart, like, like, and it's kind of like if I told you, well, like you actually, your ancestors are from like, the very center of the motherland, and then you might be like, yes, that makes sense because that's what I feel in my heart. Right. So I'm curious, about this, like, where do you think you came from? And then Kim says, when I feel about the things that I come from, it feels right. It feels magnetic and magical. It feels like home. And it feels obvious to me that I would feel this way. Yes. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Well, it's obvious that I feel this way because it's true, right? Yes, I love that. And I think that it kind of should have this like magical, mystical, magnetic kind of thing. Like when I think about that I came from my mother, right? I get my dad had his like his part of the genetic code that Jane is. But like I physically came from my mother. that she and I shared energy for 9 months. Like every thought she had permeated through me, everything she ate and felt, I experienced, you know, like, and that all of my cells were being formed with the energy of her cells, that she was more than just my housing device, but she was the life holder, life bearer, life former for me, that I used her to draw from to create me. When I even think about that, I'm like, damn, that is magic. Like that is magical stuff to me. That like that we do that life grows itself that way. And I feel like when we think about where we came from, I feel that, Kim, that I don't want to say it should because I don't like to should on anything, but you know what I mean. I feel like it kind of should feel that magical, and that like not only magical, but that like obvious, like yeah, like duh, that makes sense, like that kind of feeling. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Charles says, yes, I believe I'm a collaborative of all those things that came before me, those from all the lands my ancestors inhabited and those that influenced them. Cool. Yeah, very earth, very earth. And I love that. And it's so interesting because I had asked my mom and she hasn't responded yet. So I'm curious. When I said, what is God? Is it an energy? Is it a feeling? Is it a being? Is it like, what is that? Because so far, that's the only response thus far that has this like kind of more of this like nebulous feeling to it, as opposed to like I feel like I'm from Earth, or I'm from people, or I'm from the elements. I mean, even the elements, although, it's kind of like, can I see the air? No, but I breathe it in every day. Do I really have fire inside of me? Well, kind of, but we know we have water in us, and we're so earth material, we're made of the literal elements. You look at the periodic table, it's us, you know, and some people call those things God. So when I ask if you feel that you're from God, is it the element? Does that kind of resonate as the elements? And mom said, God is a spiritual being. Cool. Okay. Let's expand into this. When I think of a spiritual being, I think of energy, meaning I think of like a light. Um, that has such a like feeling to it. It's like a light that has a feeling to it. Like I can't, like, in my head. Now this is in my head. Tell me what y'all think. In my head, a spiritual being. I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to say sense with my basic human senses. Although, if you've ever had a spiritual experience, I call it confirmation, where it's like I get a sensation on my skin or in my body, and it feels like spirit is here, or the spirit of a once human inhabited being, or whatever. So like I can sense like the presence. Sometimes people will smell like a spiritual being, the God or the ancestor or whatever. Like you can, but it's not like, it's not like smelling a baked cookies kind of thing. But there might be like an odor that it's more in your mind, eye, or memory, as opposed to like, ooh, I smell that sage burning. You know. Um, Yeah, mom says I won't know what God looks like until I die. Right. She says you're right on target. Yeah, so it's like, so if a spiritual being, and in her words, God, um, so if you come from God, so does anyone feel like they come from like the stars? Does anyone feel like super cosmic? I do. I feel like I came from a source of energy that Some would call God, some would call love, some would call the divine, the God, goddess. Words, I don't have a word for it that resonates, but the word that resonates for me is I am a fractal of a source of energy, almost like if there were this big cloud called source, and I am a cloud part that got really solid and put in a body. Actually, and it's like the cloud of me is expanded beyond my body, but we can just see the body. That's what I think. And what I also think is that over timelines, whether we call them past or future, I have experience with coming from the star people, the star beings, the galactics, those who are the future, like I resonate with that. I resonate with that frequency and that consciousness, that energy that feels very like at home to me. And I also feel such a love, and it's a love that I can't explain. It's the love, like the closest that I can explain is like that I have for my niece. I have this love for the earth that I know it is like, it's just this, it's a familial kind of a love. This love for the earth that I know I'm a part of. It's almost like home base, like Indiana for me was like Jane's home base, where I learned how to walk. I learned how to talk. I learned how to fall down and pick myself up. I learned how to work. I learned how to be responsible and respectful. I learned how to drive a car. Like I learned how to transport myself. I learned how to exchange my energy and relate in exchange for an energetic exchange. I had my first jobs there. I learned heartbreak there. I learned how to open up and be in relationships. I learned, about sexuality there. I learned about play there. I learned how to human on a very baseline way in Indiana. That was like home base for like human Jane. So that's like the word I come from in that realm. I feel so very connected to Earth, the mothership, So I feel like I'm like, and then I think, well, what is Earth? And the Earth is also a part of this star system full of this infinite consciousness of a high frequency with all of the life-giving medicine upon it. Interesting. Kimber says, Kimber, I'm just so excited when I read the name Ari. Can't even talk. Kim says that Ari is listening. Hey, Ari. She says that she comes from love. She comes from her heart. I feel you on that, sister. Yeah. So here's a question, Ari. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? This is one of those questions that, like, if someone asked me, I would probably be like, well, duh, I just know. So that's the thing. So why do you feel you come from love? How do you know you come from love? How do you know that you come from your heart? Can you feel it in your physical body? Do you know it in your mind? Is it all of the above? Is it because what someone told you and you're like, yeah, that feels right? I'm curious. Mom says, Indiana was the beginning of life. My beginning of my life. It really was. It really was. Got to learn so much. I learned the love of the earth in Indiana. Growing up on the Ohio River and playing in the neighbor's yard before the house was built, digging in the dirt and playing with the shale rock. That was my love. That's what I love to do, is play in the earth. And I'm grateful for that. That gave me part of like my passion to like live from my heart and hopefully tell people and remind people we're stewards of the earth, y'all. Let's take care of her, please. Um, and then I'm going to read what Kim said that Ari said, and then I'm going to get what you just said, Charles. Kim says, quote from Ari, I asked my heart and it directed me to my heart. And I love myself. That's also how I know I came from love. I love that. I can't not share this. So this is from Ari. I know that it says that Kim said it, but Ari said it when she, when asked, where do you come from? This is Ari's response. And I'm not going to give Ari's age. I will let Ari or Kim share that, and then I will share that. But this touches me. Like, it makes me kind of want to cry, but I don't want to. But like, if I sat with it in any longer, if I just like stopped talking and just sat with a statement, I'm going to start like getting all like, oh. But like, that's the thing, Ari. A lot of people in the world, especially in the North America, the United States, when we're asked where we come from, we're like, what's your source? People oftentimes I feel, repeat what they were told, right? I was told I came from God. How do you know? I don't know. I was just told that, or, you grew up in a pagan household and you're like, you're asked, well, where do you come from? And they're like, Mother Nature. Okay, great. What is that like? How do you know? And they're like, I don't know. I just, we're parents. We're taught to just repeat all the time. Thank you. Ari is 10, y'all. Ari is 1 decade old. And this is her answer. But to actually ask yourself and sit with that answer, y'all. Like, can we just like pause and reflect on the guru that this teaching is? You ask your own heart, like, and it's going to direct you back to it. If it directs you outside of your heart, and if you ask your heart, where do I come from? And it tells you to turn on the news, that's your mind that's overriding the heart. Then you're not connected to your spiritual self. You're connected more to the ego, right? Ego is good, doesn't need to run the show all the time. She says, and I love myself. That's how I know I came from love. Because it's my heart and I love me. So I got to come from love, right? And then to be able to hear that answer and to recognize that, to really put 2 and 2 together in that way. There are people I feel that search their whole life for this answer. And again, it's going to be different for everybody. No one is right, no one is wrong. And I also feel that Ari kind of like hit the nail on the head for like all the spiritual texts ever written. There are books with chapter upon chapter upon chapter in it that all say what Ari just summed up. It's all about the heart and it's all about love. When you love yourself, you come from love, because loving you is one of the easiest and the hardest things ever. And then I feel like we can start to see ourselves in each other and connect with more everywhere. So glad that you're on here with your mom, Ari. Thank you. True story. And then I want to share what Charles shared. He says, I feel more earthy, fitting, because being Scotch Irish, I fully know that following Christ was our second religion. There has to be some Druidism in there somewhere. Ah, right? And it's interesting. Like, do we go back to what do I go back to what I was taught? Do I go back to what my mom was taught? Do I go back to, like Alan said, he comes from a Jewish lineage. Do I go back to the way, what the Jews were taught? Or do I go into me and feel into what feels right? And maybe I don't know. Like maybe I have no idea. Like maybe I ask myself, like, hey self, like where do you come from? And it's like it sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, right? And you're like, oh God, I don't know. But then you can play like, okay, fine. Do I come from the trees? Yeah, do I come from the trees? Yeah. Do I come from the ocean? Am I a water being? You know, do I come from the fire? Do I come from the sun? Do I come from the stars? Do I come from a star system? Do I come from, the rocks, the stone people? You know, like where do I come from? And you'll feel the answer because, like Kim said, I think it's going to feel magical and magnetic. Charles, if Charles sits and says, Charles, if you sit, and you're like, okay, so druidism. It sounded weird for a second. um it's like maybe you don't know a lot of the teachings, maybe you do, I'm just saying. And so you start reading into it, and it may be like, no, that doesn't really resonate for me. And then how interesting is that? It's like being born in a home and you look around and you're like, this is my family. Why am I in this family? Did I drop into the wrong family? Like this, what? Why am I in this family? Right? And you kind of go by their rules, and you live in the way that they want you to live, or say they're in a religion that you just are like, this is not in alignment, but you have to obey. Then you leave, and you know sometimes you just keep the practice up, sometimes you question it, sometimes you retaliate against it. But anyway, so like say you study druidism, and you're like, this feels right, this feels good, this is so real, yes, this is yes. I think allowing ourselves to ask ourselves, or just ask in general, not even have a directed recipient, just trust that the right being or energy is going to hear you and respond in love. If you just ask the universe as a whole, like I'm going to ask the all that is, where do I come from? And just sit and be in silence, just sit and be with yourself, and just like feel into the answer. It may be something that you just know. You might get a phone call that's like from, I don't know, like Christians Are Us, and then they say something, you're like, yes, that was the sign, or whatever. But I don't know. Thanks for hearing all that, y'all. A lot of that just came out. I'm gonna change. I'm not gonna change that anyway. So Mama Jane says, like if you love yourself, then you can love others. Yeah, totally. Because that's the thing about when we can acknowledge where we come from, right? Whatever that is, wherever that is, you're not the only one that came from there, So it's kind of like if I'm like, oh, I hate all people from Indiana, but if I love me, then I know that a part of me is from there, then I can't not love them, That's why for me personally, I like to feel like I'm connected to something really big, like this, like the source of energy, which is, it's the source of energy, the source. I call it source with a capital S. And Alan shares, in my long journey, I am now learning to love and appreciate myself. I did not grow up in a spiritual environment. I say that I am now walking on a spiritual path. Yes. Excuse me. I would concur with that, Alan. I definitely think that you are walking on your spiritual path, which, if we're in any kind of alignment with what Ari shared that Kim wrote, like, following your heart, following love, Because that's the one thing that's going to unify everything. It's going to keep everything in harmony, everything working in coherence. Everything will be in harmony together if we're all at least walking a path of love. And we can call it Judaism, we can call it Persian, we can call it, I can't even think of anything right now, Buddhist, like we can call it anything. We can call it Christian, Baptist, Methodist, we can call it whatever. And if we can all walk on a spiritual path / a path of love, we'll find that these paths truly interconnect and intersect. It turns into this really beautiful woven tapestry, I think. Charles says, how much I like to stack rocks. True that. You really do. Kimberly shares, great. I just had, there we go. It was like I just had all these notifications randomly pop up. And I was like, I can't read anything that was on there. Now I can. Anyway, Kim says, I've noticed that typically I'm around the things that I am from, not just today, but through my whole life. Knowing that helps me trust in my answer. Oh, yeah. Think about that. Could you imagine the type of inner turmoil, okay, that a human could potentially feel if they feel completely disconnected to that from which they believe or feel that they come from? So, what if you in your heart feel like you are an ocean baby? Your lineage were the mermaids, right? Like you can feel a deep love and resonance and truth that you are descended from the mermaids, these magical, mythical creatures that roamed upon this globe at a point in time. So this is your belief, right? You feel this in every cell of your body, and you live in the desert. Do you imagine? Like the frustration that would go with that, the discomfort that would go with that, the feeling of not belonging, probably most places you go, unless maybe you had like an aquatic center and you were that person that was always there. Now think about that and apply that to your life, right? This is where the search on spiritual paths come in, because it just feels like something's missing. You feel a calling to something. You feel like you're a part of something. And you may not know anyone else that feels that way. You can't connect with it. It seems too far off. When I'm really connected to like my star ancestors, the galactic ones, there's this feeling that I get that feels really sad and like this like deep heart longing, because I feel like I've been left. I feel like I've been left here on the earth plane, and I'm grateful to be here. And just there's a part of me that feels like, like, can y'all please come back and get me? Please, I want to play in the frequency that I know resonates with the bigger part of me, and still be able to manifest and create and all the things. And then on my spiritual path, right, as I walk on this path of love, I find more people that feel similar. They feel connected to the stars or the planets or the sun. They're connected to the cosmos and the infinite cosmic intelligence that we have access to, that they're also accessing. So now I'm starting to bring that feeling of family that I thought I was missing, and I'm bringing it here. So I'm having a lived experience. I may not be able to go be that mermaid, right? Because I don't have gills. I can't go swim in the ocean for 2 weeks. I can't. I got to come up for air in a couple minutes. But if I find my tribe that also feels like they're water babies and they're mermaids at the core, and then we all meet at the aquatic center. Now I'm starting to form my community because we're all walking, we're all following this calling in our heart. To me, that's why we do this. It's why we go on this spiritual path, so we can love more. We can love ourselves more. We can love others more. We can co-create together. We can play together. We can accept everyone, so that when 5 people in a room and someone says, yeah, I come from the rocks. The stone people are my ancestors. And then you have someone else that goes, that's awesome. I'm from the Pleiadian star system. And then you have someone else that says, I've only been on Earth. I have no idea what y'all are talking about, but I'm only on Earth. And I love you all. Then we can start to play together, To me, that is what it's all about. That is the spiritual dimension of true wellness. It's accepting where everyone else feels they come from, no matter how far out it may sound, so that we're not judging someone and being like, what do you mean you came from the mermaids? They're not even real. Or even better / worse, depending on your perspective and sarcastic nature, saying, oh, you believe that? Well, you're going to go to hell, or in mermaid land, they're going to dry you up on the beach if you believe that, or, and you know what I mean? Like condemning someone else because they're not in alignment with your belief, and they're not in alignment with the words you choose, because Ari can say this, that she comes from love. And my mom says she comes from God. They're two different words. And so they could argue with each other all day, and one could tell the other one how wrong they are. Or they could say, wow, that's so interesting. Thanks for sharing. Or where are they similar? Like, where do these overlap and where are they different? And let's just be this really cool witness and let's see what we can. Alan says, I feel like connection with everyday life and reality. I'm focusing on being in the present and creating positive experiences for myself and other people. Yes, I love that. Being present, being in the now. It's another thing. I think that, whatever source you come from, and if you're like, super science, logic, or whatever, just your belief system, you may feel like, no, you come from this person, which had this DNA. I did the DNA test, so I know that I am from this land, and that's it. Nothing was before that. That was the beginning. Then I feel that no matter what or how far back we go, I think there's a longing to be able to go back to the beginning point and feel it. It is for me. Like, if I could kind of go back, and I would not do this because it would be really uncomfortable and kind of gross, but it's almost like I kind of wish I could go back into the womb just to feel it, like to be that held. Like, I don't have to do anything. I'm just being held in this like warm, dark, white noise. Everyone sounds like Charlie Brown's teachers on there because I can't really hear. Like, just that feeling. Like, how cool would that be to go back to that? To go back to being a baby and being held in unconditional love and being looked at in wonder and awe just because you're that being. Or to go back to the source of energy so I can feel what it feels like to be a part of the wholeness, the holiness, the oneness, just to feel that big expansiveness of all that is just poof. God, there's this like longing for me to want to go back to that. And then I'm not present. Yeah, then I'm not living my now life because I'm in a juxtaposition polarity experience of I want to go back to the future, not the movie. But like, I want to go back to that future because you're going to go back to that source on some level, when you die. Like, wherever you think you come from, you're going to go back to a version of that at some point. How many lifetimes does it take? Could just be this last one that you're in now. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Popping that back But all that to say, being in that present moment, you know, still have the longing to keep us moving and searching for more and being always in the search of knowledge and acquiring more information and wanting to give it and share it in the way we best feel how. Know how, feel how. The way we best feel how. That really made sense in my mind, but when I say it out loud, it doesn't sound right. Anyway, digression. Um, but being in that present moment, you know, remembering that wherever you come from, wherever you think you come from, you know, you come from love, you come from the elements, you come from the fairies, you come from the mermaids, you come from the star system, you come from a galactic being, you came from the angels, you came from God, you came from the Jews, you came from the Druids, whatever. Wherever you feel you came from, I just heard like Ram Dass, be here now. I was going to say something else, but that just came in really loud. Um, yeah, I literally was going to say something else, but that just came in really big. Just be here now, you know? So, I feel like when we know or feel like where we're from, that feels like I'm connected to like this oneness. You know, like I'm connected to the oneness of humanity because, okay, I came from human. Okay. Or I'm connected to the oneness of the earth because I'm an earthling. You know, I can connect to the oneness of the star system because there are other planets in this one and we're all dancing and floating around the sun. You know, I am connected to the oneness of even the parts, right? I'm connected to the oneness of um, the water. You know, there's water everywhere in my body. I'm connected to the oneness of the air. I'm connected to the oneness of light because I hold light in me. I come from the oneness of the resounding sound of nature, of life, because sound is a vibration that's going to ever flow through me. And the first sound that was ever made is still floating around and bouncing around everything. And I'm here to hear it anyway. But that connection to that oneness, it's like no matter what, I guess we all come from the oneness, right? It's the oneness of some sort, the oneness of love, whatever that thing is. And that feels really good to me. I feel like kind of safe in that. I feel like I can relax into that. Um, so yeah, this was what I wanted to talk about. Apparently, it was funny because I didn't really have. I was thinking about like alignment and stuff, and I had this idea yesterday, and I was like, I need to write that down. I didn't write it down, so then I just trusted that whatever is going to come out tonight was going to be perfect. Um, so I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Is there anything that's on your minds that you're kind of like wanting to add to this conversation about like where you come from and figuring that out or feeling into it or any encouragement or advice you would give on anyone that's like, I don't know where I come from. You know, there was a book that we had on the bookshelf when I was a kid. I'm guessing my mom knew that I read it. I don't know, but it was called like Where Do I Come From? And it had like cartoon characters and it was like all about like how people make babies, but it was like just cartoon white people um that look like Peter Griffin and from the Family Guy. So whenever I ask like where did you come from? I always have that like vision. Kim asks, do you feel like sharing where you come from? I feel I came from the source of all that is, which has which holds all the frequencies of pure, unpolarized light. We can sense it as love. Um, and I also feel like I have timelines of experience as this, like I come from Earth and I come from galactic. But the wholeness of me, I see it as energy. I see it all as like energy. I see it as like this light, almost like a cloud, and kind of coming and fractaling off with like a channel of energy that kind of like comes down to me and through me, and I'm anchored into the energy of the earth. And yet that energy that I come from is all around me. There's nothing, there's no big like barrier around it. But that's how I see it, is that I come from the source of energy. And then when I die, I go either straight back up to the source, or I fractal out and I collect more energy and data and whatever. And then I still go back up to source. Very similar to how clouds work. You know, you got the cloud and it gets heavy enough and it drops down, makes water, evaporates, clouds. But when it evaporates, it takes, you know, sometimes it moves down a river, so it collects more information. You know, when it moves up to the cloud moves. So there's, that's how I see it. I see it like that. Thanks for asking. I also see between the here and the there as like these different layers of energy / consciousness. And in that channel, we can tap into those layers of consciousness and how we can like time travel or do like shamanic work. That's how I do it. Kim says, you're an energy cloud. Poof. You know, every time I have like discussions on here, and when I'm sitting here and I see these like paintings that I did whenever ago that I did them, sometimes I'm like wrong side. Like, well, that kind of looks like that, but it doesn't have a look, because then I'm also like, kind of looks like that. Well, maybe it kind of looks like that when it's like earthly. Anyway. I see every human as being like their own energy cloud, you know, whether they're like radiating this like multi-spectrum energy, light, love, and all the things, or they're an energy cloud that's a little bit like Pigpen, the grumble butt, that's just like, I'm angry. I still see them as the same energy cloud. It's just a different form, you know, different form called you, them, and the other, and the neighbor, and whoever. So thanks for asking. Well, I am so happy and grateful that you all were on here with me to have this conversation. It's way more fun with you all here with me. I know it's a beautiful night. It's been a beautiful day here, at least in the Queen City. So you still have plenty of daylight, plenty of time to go out there and catch the sunset. Maybe go out there and go for a walk. You play a game, you throw a ball to someone or a dog, you throw a frisbee, you jump in a lake, you dance, you do something, and perhaps celebrate that from which you came. Just celebrate it however that looks. Maybe it's eating a gluten-free chocolate cake. Whatever it looks like to you, I hope that it is done in joy and love. And I want to thank you all again for being here with me. I appreciate it. So I will see you all tomorrow. Michael and I will be here for Love Talks at 5, and I'll be doing something creative tomorrow at 10 on the Facebook, the Book of Faces. So thank you all, and I'm just really grateful for Promise Resource Network to be offering these things and to still have ways that we can stay connected. And I'm looking forward to the hub opening up and having in-person classes, which is coming up before too long. So I love you all so much, and I will see you all so soon. Bye, y'all.